Good morning, class. Let us continue with this non fictional prose by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I read the next paragraph. For 2 years, life rolled on. To roll on means to move continuously forward. For 2 years, life rolled on in much the same way. Among the teachers, he is sharing with us his experiences at his school in Cuttack. So he was there for 2 years now. Among the teachers and students, there were both Bengalis and Uriyas. Bengalis, people from West Bengal, are the Bengalis, and people from Odisha or Orissa, the former Orissa, and now it is Odisha. So, Orissa, they are the Uriyas. So, in this paragraph, Bose is talking about his teachers and particularly the people who influenced him. He respected some of them and he shares here those experiences. Among the teachers and students, there were both Bengalis and Uriyas. So the teachers and students both are from Bengali as well as uh, Orissa or Odisha. And the relations between them were quite cordial, friendly relations. So the relations between the Bengali and Oriya people in his school, that is, some are teachers and some are students. So the relations were quite cordial, means friendly, on good terms. One did not hear in those days. So he says, in my childhood, in those days, one did not hear, at least we students did not hear, of any ill feeling, white bhavana, ill feeling or misunderstanding, गैरसमज, between the people of the two sister provinces. Two sister provinces, states, pranta. Sister provinces, those provinces that are side by side, शेजारी असणारे राज्य. So he says, in those days, in my childhood, there were no misunderstanding or ill feeling among the people of two different states. प्रांतवाद नव्हते. So far as the members of our family were concerned, we could never think or feel in terms of narrow parochialism. Parochialism is a new word and it means limited or narrow outlook, संकुचितपणा, विचारांचा संकुचितपणा. Narrow parochialism or provincialism. Provincialism, regionalism, prantavad. So he says, in my family, in Bose family, nobody could think about parochialism or provincialism. Why? Because in their family, it was how the children were taught directly and indirectly by the parents' views. नेताजी सुभाषचंद्र बोस यांच्यावर अशा पद्धतीचे संस्कार झाले होते की संकुचितपणा किंवा प्रांतवाद त्या कुटुंबाच्या मुलांच्या मनामध्ये येणं शक्य नव्हतं, असं नेताजी आपल्याला इथं सांगतात. So far as the members of our family were concerned, we could never think or feel in terms of narrow parochialism or provincialism. For that, we have to thank our parents. And why it was so? Because of his parents' views. So he says we must be thankful to our parents. My father had extensive contacts. Extensive on large scale, खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात. My father had extensive contacts, संबंध, अनेक लोकांशी असलेले संबंध, relationships. My father had extensive contacts with the people of Orissa and close जवळीकीचे and intimate personal relations with many distinguished famous नावाजलेले distinguished Uriya families. So he says, though we were Bengali, his father had many contacts among the people of Orissa, and with so many of them, his father had good personal relations. His outlook, his view, personal view, point of view, his outlook was consequently broad, as a result of something. So he says, my father's outlook, my father's point of view was broad, and his sympathies wide. Sympathies, sahanubuti, love, compassion. So he says there was no narrow-mindedness in the views of my father, because he was a very broad-minded and sympathetic person, and they unconsciously नकळत, not deliberately, and they unconsciously influenced the rest of his family. So this father's outlook influenced the rest of his family, including the children. I cannot remember ever कधीही to have heard from his lips one single disparaging कमी लेखणार, दुसऱ्याला कमी लेखणार, regard as being of little worth. Lips one single disparaging remark about the टिप्पणी about the people of Orissa. So he says, as a child, I never heard from my father's lips, from my father's mouth, any bad word, any disrespect about the people of the sister province, that is Orissa or Odisha, or for the matter of that, about the people of any other province. So he says, neither I heard any bad remark, any bad word from my father for the people of Orissa or any other province. And it was in this atmosphere the children were brought up. Though he was never effusive, enthusiastic in showing emotions, though he was never effusive in his emotions and was inclined, कल असणे एखाद्या गोष्टीकडे inclined, and was inclined to be reserved, not talkative, not expressive, मनातल्या मनात ठेवणारे. Though he was never effusive in his emotions and was inclined to be reserved, he could endear, attract, draw, वेधून घेणे, लोकांचं लक्ष वेधून घेणे. He could endear himself to all those who came into contact with him. So he says, my father had a quality because of which he used to attract people towards him wherever he happened to be at the time. So wherever my father went, he used to draw people's attention in good terms because of good reasons. Such parental influences, so these are the parental influences, संस्कार आपण ज्याला म्हणतो आई वडिलांचे. So here Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is talking about his parental influences and how his father or mother taught him good values, good things unconsciously with the help of their own behavior. आई वडिलांच्या स्वतःच्या विचारांमुळे किंवा त्यांच्या वागण्यामुळे नेताजी सुभाषचंद्र बोस यांच्यावर कसे चांगले संस्कार झाले त्याबद्दल ते इथं या पॅराग्राफमध्ये आपल्याला सांगतात. Such parental influences work unobtrusively, low-key, controlled, niyantrit. And only in later life can the children discover by a process of analysis, chikitsa, what helped to mold their character. To mold, घडवणे, त्याचा अर्थ घडवणे, साच्यामध्ये बसवून घडवणे, आकार देणे. टू मोल्ड देअर कॅरेक्टर. लहान कुठल्याही कुटुंबातल्या मुलांचं जे चारित्र्य आहे, जी व्यक्तिमत्व आहे, ते घडण्यामागे काय असतात, तर ते आईवडिलांचे विचार किंवा त्यांच्या कृती असतात. आणि नेताजींच्या मते हे आपण नंतर आपल्याला कळतं, मोठे झाल्यानंतर, की हाऊ माय फादर और माय मदर टॉट मी दिस अँड दॅट हेल्प मी टू ग्रो ॲज अ पर्सन. What helped to mold their character or give their life a definite direction. So he says, now here he is talking about one important aspect of his father's personality, and that is his broad outlook. And there was no place for such bad qualities like provincialism or parochialism. So he says, I never heard my father saying any bad word about any person from Orissa or any other state. So I inherited this value from my father, and when I was in the school, I behaved in the same way. So in this paragraph he is talking about how he used to mix up with the Bengalis as well as Oriya people, and they were teachers as well as the students, and how his own father's values helped him to adjust in that atmosphere. The next paragraph, of the teachers there was one who left a permanent impression, कायमचा ठसा उमटवणे, on my youthful mind. So he says, on my youthful mind, a teacher, one of the teachers, he left a permanent impression. I could never forget that teacher. That was our headmaster, Babu Beni Madhavdas. And what was the name of that teacher? He was actually the headmaster of that school in which Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was studying at that time, and his name was Babu Beni Madhavdas. The very first day I saw him taking his rounds, and he says, it was the first day I saw that headmaster, my teacher, when he was taking his routine rounds at the school, and I was then just over 12 minus 1, and he says I was 11, felt what I should now call an irresistible moral appeal in his personality. Irresistible is something very attractive, so that we cannot avoid its influence in our personality. So he says he had such an irresistible moral appeal, naitik quality, moral quality, attractive quality in his personality. And he says, the very moment I saw him for the very first day, I got attracted towards him, and that created the lasting impression on his young mind, so that he could never forget him, and he respected him throughout his life. Up till then, I had never experienced that it was what it was to respect a man. So he said, it was the first time in my life I started feeling respect for a person. But for me to see Beth Madhav Das was to adore him, to love and respect somebody deeply. एखाद्याची पूजा करणे, अतिशय आदर करणे. So he says, but for me to see Beth Madhav Das was to adore him. I was not old enough then to realize, जाणीव होणे, to realize what it was that I adored. And he says, I was so young that I could not realize why I respect this man so much. I could only feel that here was a man who was not an ordinary teacher. But he says, at that moment, I realized, I knew that he was not an ordinary teacher. Ordinary, sarvasamanya. Ordinary teacher who stood apart from and above the rest of his tribe. Tribe actually Todi, itha other teachers. So he says, but I knew that he was very different. Stood apart from others means very different from others. And I secretly said to myself that if I wanted an ideal for my life, ideal adarsha. So he says, at that time I decided that in case I need some ideal for my life, it should be to emulate him. emulate, to match somebody's qualities by imitating the person. एखाद्याचं अनुकरण करणे चांगल्या गोष्टींचं, आणि आपण सुद्धा त्या माणसासारखं बनणे किंवा त्याच्यापेक्षा जास्त चांगलं बनणे, दॅट इज टू इम्युलेट. So he says, and I secretly said to myself, and he says, at that time I decided that I will be like this man and he will be my ideal in life. And who was that man? He was the headmaster of this school at Cuttack, and his name was Babu Beni Madhavdas or Beth Madhavdas. So this is how he is talking about his experiences with the teachers as well as students. And in these two paragraphs, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose talks about mainly two people who influenced his life and who gave him good values, and that is, first is his own father, and the second is his headmaster Beth Madhav Das. Thank you.